it only occurred to me this time that this angle may be unsettling to some people. It's just that the time, it's two things. One, I kind of think sometimes this whole setup gives a casual kind of feel, but the main reason, honestly, is my back starts to act up around the time of day when I usually make these videos. It's really around the time of day I do anything, honestly. So it's just a bit easier because, yeah, I can sit, but the only areas I can sit comfortably are not areas that are good for making videos. So it's just kind of easier to do this, honestly. So apologies if it's just kind of weird setup, but anyway, video I want to talk about today is the title, obviously. YouTube ruined media. Parentheses. I'm a part of that. Not to say that I'm, obviously, I have currently no subscribers, and before I deleted my account, I had at most like maybe 5, 6, I don't even remember. I think it might have been 6. But any case, obviously I'm not, I'm saying like might change it, not say I'm part of it, but something more catchy than I'm part of that trend. Maybe I'll say I'm part of that trend, but I don't know. In any case, I just think, and that's a great example, honestly, what I was just talking about. Things like that, like, it's always the most catchy title. And if it's long, it has to be clickbaity. You know, that's just, that's something I've noticed now, not just in media, but like, other news organizations, even like the New York Times, which is still often noted as a pretty respectful organization to some degree, but even they still, at least in their opinion pieces, do that kind of thing. And I mean, I looked back at their older articles. I just don't think they did it as much prior to things like YouTube becoming so dominant in the market, especially among young people. And young people will always be the greatest interest because of multiple reasons. One, obviously, they're the future of the market, but more than that, it's, I guess, young people of a, it's easier for young people of a more adult, I guess, generation at least, to influence older people's beliefs and everything and trends and all that than the other way around, at least in general, at least as far as I've noticed. I mean, not to say that all by and large, and maybe it varies by area, but to some degree, I think. And all these things. So, in general, the market will favor younger people, and especially the common young person. And these things, like, catchy titles and all these things. I'm not saying they're bad inherently, especially if they get like really young people interested in topics. Like SciShow, I would watched when I was younger. I wouldn't watch it today, really. If I'm watching scientific videos, and I try my best. I don't necessarily have the attention span, but I try my best to read articles and resources and all of that when I can when it comes to science. But if I am watching a video, I don't usually watch SciShow now, but it was a crucial part, along with like Vsauce, which was more philosophy, but still in tandem, in my appreciation for science. So I don't want to say that catchy titles and all that, but I think once you reach a certain age, and I don't want to be that guy, but I just feel that's my opinion. I'm just going to be a little bit controversial. I think once you reach the age of, I don't want to give a definitive age, but somewhere between the ages of like 19 and 26, I'd say, you want to start getting over that a little bit. I mean, I still might watch it if it's in my feed, if it interests me a lot, or if I just don't really feel like thinking too much and just watching it. But by and large, I try my best to watch heavily sourced videos and heavily sourced articles. Not because I think I'm better than other people or blah blah blah. I just find that more enjoyable now too, and I think we have to develop in general in that way. And things like YouTube, where people are just constantly getting fed things that are so easy to like, personalities that are so easy to like, that you can connect with, that you can do. Like, I'm not saying again that's bad inherently, and that's the kind of thing that I wouldn't say you have to age out of necessarily. I'm not saying you have to age. I don't want to be. I'm not saying that's even necessarily at all in any way a bad thing to have in your life. Yeah, my back feels a little better, but to have in your life at all. But you have to do it in moderation. You don't have. I keep saying have to. You should, I think, do it in moderation. You should fix my hair. Do it, I guess, thoughtfully. Because we all are responsible in some shape or form for what the market feeds us. And I think I often, even people that are into pop things and pop psych, often find them being frustrated in one way or another in an area that they're really, really directly, invested in. Being frustrated that they can't find the type of content in that area that they want anymore. And I don't tell them directly, but I'm often thinking, well, you're watching, I don't know, like Hollywood something or whatever constantly on YouTube. I don't even keep track of these things. Um, sorry, let me pause. I guess what I'm getting at there is you shouldn't rather complain about things that you're to some degree responsible for. I mean, obviously not one person is responsible for the entire market, but part of it. And yeah, I mean, I sometimes, think about that for myself too. Like, I sometimes get into slogs where I'm just watching pointless videos that I care nothing about and don't do anything to stimulate me, just because I don't want to put in the effort to look for something that's actually, you know, that I actually would invest in, Um, I, I watch, I don't know, like, I mean, I used to do this with BuzzFeed, honestly, years ago. Um, Even that became just far too much for me to even, or maybe I grew up. I don't know, one of the two. But yeah, I'm now I watch things that are arguably have less effort put into them, but they're just a little less annoying. Like, I don't know, uh, some just basic. I don't even know. I can't even think off the top of my head. I'm trying to give you an example, but well, there's this one channel. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to call people out, but that'll just put up random statistics that really just don't mean anything for one thing, and just do all these things and do these videos, and I don't enjoy it. And it annoys me even sometimes, actually, still, but it doesn't annoy me enough for me to stop watching, and they're short. That's the thing. The short videos are a killer. Because you're always just going to be saying, oh, like, I have 1 minute, what, even if it's stupid, whatever. But, like, that builds up and builds channels, and then it's just, and that's really a convergence from, like, well, it started, I'd argue it started in popularity with Vine, but then was it Musically that turned into TikTok? I forget the history, but I guess TikTok is the one that really started to push the thing for that, and now YouTube has started that. It's become a whole thing, but I think it's still nonetheless this whole. I mean, you could argue it goes back further, but for the sake of argument in this video, I'd say it started with YouTube, really. And even a lot of the early videos in YouTube were actually short little skits, like Smosh. I mean, they started with just doing theme songs, so. Or, I feel like Shane Dawson, even though he wasn't early actually, but I think he did. Oh, Fred, for example. He, I'm pretty sure his videos weren't usually more than like 4 or 3 minutes, which is still long by some of today's standards, but that whole thing. And I think it all just comes back to it's so easy to get invested for multiple reasons. One, we get invested in the personality often, not the content. At least that's often the first thing that we get invested in, and sometimes we stay for other reasons. But then with that, we often delude ourselves to whether the content is good. We just it just falls down the line, and more like the channels that have the click the it's just such a race to the bottom, really. And I'm trying to do that less with my new take on this channel after the whole bleeding thing. I started to do that a little bit before in regards to trying to build a personality, and I'm honestly I mean, I can never be my authentic personality on camera. I just can't. I just feel too insecure. It's impossible for me, but I'm at least not trying to hide behind the camera anymore. Like before, I still didn't do a great job all the time, but I tried to be, kind of be like, you know, oh, this, that kind of person. And maybe I did in some of these videos, but I'm trying to do it less. Because you shouldn't be part of the problem. At least you should try not to. Especially the problem that you don't like. Especially. Which is inferred in the phrase, really, but I just want to make that clear. And with all that said, like, it's just influenced so many things, in my opinion. Like, because one, there's two reasons. One, young people just in general, and people in general rather, associate things with the platforms that they were indoctrinated in from a young age. And with that, like, also partially because it was already a thing. People like Justin Bieber, I believe, or I could be wrong, he could have gotten a start somewhere else, but I believe he got a start YouTube to some degree. If not him, many artists, songwriters especially, but I can think of some others if I try. I know there are some, but hopefully, if anybody watches this, they'll put it in the comments. But in any case, so it's just so coded. So many things are coded in YouTube's fingerprints. And I'm not saying that's inherently bad, but it's bad the way it's becoming. Because we don't like anything anymore, by and large, unless it's catchy, unless it's flashy, unless it's, you know, we want it to seem authentic. We want it to seem like, people are good, or people are smart, or people are talented, or whatever you're looking for in any area. We want it to seem like that, but we don't want really to be that. Or rather, it's not what's important to us, I should say. And you could argue that's been the case throughout human history, but I think YouTube has really brought it front and center and kind of made it such a need. And I mean, I want to give you an example, but I don't want to seem like I'm self promoting. So I just have. Okay, I'm going to tell it because I just think it's important. Um, I was talking to a nice gentleman. Um, it was at a brewery by me. Um, I just thought summer, I'm not. I try not to drink so much, but I just had like a beer, or whatever. Anyway, um, and slowly, like, it came to discussion of my music. Like, we were talking about music because there was a song playing that was Dire Straits, actually. Sultans of Swing was playing, and I mentioned how I liked it and blah blah blah. And eventually, um, it just came to that I showed him one of my songs. Eventually, I don't really know how to explain quite how. Uh, anyway, um, and surprisingly, he seemed, and I can't always read people, he seemed to genuinely like it, and especially because he was offering like tips that seemed actually applicable. And a lot of people just kind of give you vague, he actually said, yes, this, and that's part of the thing. And like, but I liked a lot of his suggestions, but some of it is just like so clearly aimed at people's failing attention spans. Like, he was saying, to keep people invested, you don't want to break. I'm like, a little bit. I'm like, and eventually came down to, which I agreed to, maybe doing an alternative take of some of my songs with it. And I thought that was maybe a good idea. But initially, like, it's just frustrated me a little bit because that's so not what my own songs are about, personally. And I'm not saying my songs are so complex or whatever, but they're meant to get people to think about things. I don't always succeed, but that's their intention. To and they're more than that to me, all purposeful. There's nothing I put in a song that I don't want to. And if I could, be better at guitar, I would be, of course. Be better, maybe even at putting some, sounds in and electronics and stuff. But there's no, the feel that I put in, at least, is the intended feel, always. I wouldn't make it otherwise. And it's just nowadays so often that it's just like, oh, people wouldn't like this because it's this, so you should change it in this way. And that's always been largely the case in terms of like pop stuff. But I think to some degree everything has become pop stuff now. Like, there is no room for an artist's perspective. It's always, unless the artists themselves are such on the pulse of what people want, but nobody that would just do things that are a little bit off or a little bit this or a little bit that can really make leeway anymore. And I'm probably also saying that out of frustration for my own sake, but I see so many channels, for instance, on YouTube. I honestly, the channels I like on YouTube now are usually the ones that have no more than like 500,000 subscribers, which back in the early days of YouTube, that was a whole lot, but now it's really not. 1 million, honestly, isn't even that big anymore. You can make a decent living with it, but it's not big. And honestly, it would be more than enough for me, but for some people and different, like music is a little bit different. Like if I, you know, could get by with just being able to afford some of the things I want and not have to be a burden on those around me, I would be more than happy personally. But certain things, people that are more, about getting messages out there and all that, they just, the ones that are sincere often don't have a platform anymore. It's kind of, I will be fine personally if my stuff isn't noticed. I mean, I'd like it to be because I like to improve my stuff, honestly. Like, so many of the people, like, it's so rare that I get criticism that's actually useful for me. Some of the stuff the guy told me today was good. Not today, that day. But so often it's just not applicable. Like a lot of some of the other stuff he said. And yeah, but I'll get by. I'll figure out some things that make me happy and whatever. But for some people, they really need recognition, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily a sign of. Oh, I mean, maybe it is a sign of vanity, but maybe a tiny bit of vanity is okay. I guess maybe not vanity, but um, a little bit of self-indulgence is, is natural, normal, fine, and helpful at times, even not just to you, but for other people. Because I mean, that's one of the reasons why people like YouTubers with big personalities, and that's not inherently bad in and of itself. But the difference is we should be open to all types of people, not just all sexes, not just all races, not even just all political beliefs, but all types. And I think there is a platform for every belief currently, at least the majority of them. You can find it somewhere if you dig hard enough. But not every expression. And I would argue expression is more important than belief, because belief is shallow. Belief doesn't mean that much, honestly. When it gets down to it, it's just really a showcase of the limits of our understanding. I mean, it's the classic philosophical construct. I forget what they call it. I knew it at some point, but I, I, I stopped reading philosophy a while ago. I gotta get back into it. But the idea that, and this isn't really even something, I mean, I'm sure most people know about it just from taking a philosophy course in high school or whatever. The fact that I can say that I feel this, I can say that I see this, and I can say even that I can look under a microscope and see. I can't see protons, neutrons, and um, electrons, but I can see the particles that, you know, electrons, neutrons, and protons make up and stuff. But especially because I can't see that far, but even if I could, there is no end to the possibility that it's not just all us seeing an illusion of it or something. There is never any way to say that this is here. Definitely. And why I'm saying that is to say that belief is shallow. Belief doesn't really show you anything. You can believe anything. I can believe I'm the reincarnation of Jesus. I can believe that. And you can't tell me I don't believe that. But it doesn't mean anything. Now, if I were to express my love for people and my unending, all this, and somehow it just proved how both righteous and godly I am in some form, then that would mean something. But belief in it itself doesn't mean anything. And by extension, personality only means as much as you can apply it. Because beyond that, it's all beliefs. I believe this person is a good person. I believe this person is smart. I believe this person is XXX. But unless they apply it like somewhere, something like there are those content creators that do apply it, but so many of it is just a persona that makes you think of it. And I've seen a lot of stuff that people call popular, and I don't want to be not call popular, sorry, call good rather. And I don't want to be that guy, but I often think it's just they like this person, so they'll like anything they make. And I'm not saying that's bad inherently. And for the people that genuinely seem like really great guys and great girls and what have you, I'm a little bit less, you know, upset about it. But by and large, it's frustrating to me. Maybe it's just because I'm not that great of a person. So I know that I wouldn't, but I don't know. I try to be, but it's kind of hard to be both very insane and a good person often. But I digress. Um, in general, I just think it's problematic the way we have things set up because I don't want to make this too much longer than 30 minutes, but ending it as best I can. I think we need a platform. I think YouTube, in my opinion, is really the start of all of this in our modern form because that was the first thing that got people to say, "Hey, I can create things. Hey, you can create things. Hey, we know people that create things. Hey, we like," and that's not bad at all. I like that, but I think it got a little too much to the point from it went from, "Hey, we can all create things," to, "Hey, creating things is a personality." And then that turned into personality is your beliefs, honestly, or your thing. Like that just I put this thing up recently on my YouTube discussion board that was like reminder, this is not a part. This is I think it's just frustrating me. And I'm not the first person to say I saw it, I think recently on not recently, a while ago on Reddit, something similar. Was it Reddit? I don't know, somewhere. So I don't want to claim to be the creator of that. I wouldn't, that kind of thing. But I still think it's important to reinforce these things because it's really, I think in general, we need a platform. I think I started to say, but I didn't finish. That I don't want to say is the anti YouTube because things like that never work and they tend to be flawed in their own way, but something that fills a gap. Um, like something focused on maybe you have to um, you upload a video and I don't know. I am not smart enough in that area to really suggest anything. You could argue I'm not smart in any area, but definitely not that area. So, but anyway, that's my main thing.